It's good to see you. You hear Matt Rivers make the case that the Russian progress in this part of the country here is slow and incremental, but you still see it as significant, and you see Putin as a plan. And I want to blank this so you can come in yourself as to essentially partition this.
Yeah, I think absolutely. The plan is clearly they're making progress there, and at some point Putin is going to declare victory, that has already taken place, and that ultimately what you're going to end up is something like what you drew, but more importantly, I think over the course of time, the pace of these operations will decrease. This op-tempo can't be sustained. The Russians don't have the forces. It was just described that many of them will take years to replenish and to rebuild. The Ukrainians certainly have the support from the West, but it's not going to die down, but clearly what needs to take place is that the Ukrainians have to pick up the pace, and we've seen that. Even the strike against the two ships here.
Right.
That's a deep...
Show you that here.
Yeah, that's a deep strike. The Ukrainians need to increase their deep strikes into sanctuary. The Russians see the Black Sea as sanctuary. They see Russia as sanctuary. They need to get out there, and then that causes the Russians to decrease the amount of forces they can bring forward. So I think ultimately what is going to happen is you're going to see a division of Ukraine that's going to look like that. It'll be achieved over time. And then Odessa becomes a key to close this off. Clearly, Russia could take forces from the Transnistria and over here. That will take probably weeks to a month or so. But Odessa is a target. It's going to be a hard one for the Russians to take.
But you don't see any way to keep Putin from getting this. Then the question becomes, how long is the West willing to stand with Ukraine to kick him out, to try to kick him out? But you don't see any way of stopping him from getting that.
Very sadly, I don't see anything other than a divided Ukraine at some point. Certainly President Zelensky would never sign up to that. But I think that will be achieved over the course of time. I think we're into this for years. The pace will decrease over the course of the next few months. And this will look like very much like what the Soviets had in Afghanistan. In terms of the media attention, it's going to be below the radar, and Russia will be punished by an insurgency. And at some point, Russia and Ukraine will have to make a decision as to what ultimately this looks like.
So I just want to come into some of this. We've talked about their evacuation now at this steel plant in Mariupol. This is the before. You see an industrial area, and here you see it just simply destroyed. Now, if it were just a war target and there were no people there, again, I'm not justifying war, but you would understand that, right? An attack on a very important piece of economic infrastructure. Right. The Russians know there are people there. Yes, some Ukrainian fighters, but also civilians. When you look at those pictures, what comes to mind?
Oh, clearly, the devastation that's taking place, the lack of the rules of land warfare are not being adhered to at all by the Russians. They really simply do not care. Their objective is to wear down the morale of the Ukrainian people and to create a wasteland. Putin has no desire to leave Ukraine, and he has no desire to try to rebuild it. This produces for him, in addition to a desired buffer zone.
There are a lot of people watching who probably want to push back on the point you just made, that you think inevitably, at least for a short period of time, some period of time, we get a divided Ukraine. I wanted to illustrate the point, just show this. This is where we were back on March 5th, right? The Russians were coming. They wanted to take Kyiv. They wanted to decapitate the leadership and take the country. That did not happen. So what happened instead? The Russians begin to build up, then they get pushed out, and you see the more Russian resources here now in this part of the country. You believe this is going to continue, and that if the West is going to get more howitzers, more tanks, more anti-aircraft, what's the timeline to get it in there quickly if there's any way to prevent what you just laid out from happening?
Oh, goodness. It's ongoing right now. The process is taking place. The handoff is taking place here. Ukrainian forces are coming across designated units. They're starting to move this kit. They're not starting. They're continuing to move this kit at a rapid pace. The support by NATO, the support by the United States is amazingly impressive. The numbers exist right here for Russia to continue to pour into this area. The Ukrainians are magnificent in the tactical fight. What is required is to set the operational objectives, which means attrit the Russians in sanctuary. Go after the targets in Russia. Don't be hesitant about that. Make the Russians suffer in sanctuary so you can set the operational conditions that would allow you maybe to push a little bit harder. I don't see that yet. It needs to continue. But I think ultimately there would be some form of a divided Ukraine. I hope I'm wrong, but I think there would be some form of a division that would take place.